It's a terrible thing is love, did you say? Well, Edward, my lad, I'll not say nay. But you don't think of that when the young heart blows, leaf by leaf, coming out like a rose, and your sheets are slacked off and your blood is a prancing, and the world seems a floor for you to dance on. Terrible, eh? Yes, you're right. But all the same, it's God's own light. Ah, there's something worth loving in her, as neat as a bird and straight as a fir. And I've heard them say as she passed by, it was like another sun slipped in the sky. Kind to the old, kind to the young, with a smile on her lip and a laugh on her tongue, with a heart to feel, the head to choose, and she stood just 5'4" in her shoes. Oh, I've seen her look. Well, I'll stop it. Oh, I've seen her turn. Well then, drop it. Seen, what? All under the sod the darling lies now. My God. All right then, lads. I've shipped that sea. I couldn't help it. Let be. Ah, them courting times. Well, it's no use trying to tell what they were, and time is flying. But you know how it is. The father pretending he never sees nothing, and the mother mending or gripping the Bible and spelling the text, and an eye on us now and then over her specs. They were a decent pair enough, them two, if it was only with them I had to do. Bless me, the larned he was in the flowers, and how he would talk for hours and hours about digging and dunging, and weeding and seeding, and sometimes a bit of a spell at the reading, and Betsy and me sitting back in the chimley, and her a-clicking her needles so nimbly, and me looking straight in old Anthony's face, and a-stealing my arm round Betsy's waist. Ah, the shy she was. But when Anthony said, "Now, Chilla, it's time to be going to bed," then Betsy would say, as we all of us riz, "I wonder what sort of a night it is." Or, "Never mind, father, I'll shut the door." And shut it she did, you may be sure, only the way she done it, you see. I was outside, but so was she. And then was the time, just a minute, but bless me the sight of love we put in it. Ah, the clasping arms, ah, the stooping head, ah, the kisses and showers, ah, the things that we said. Yes, and the crying when I went. Ah, the innocent. Now listen, my lads, and I'll give you the cut of what I calls an innocent foot. For it's no use the whole world talking to me if I'd never seen nothing of Betsy Lee except her foot. I was bound to know that she was as pure as the driven snow. For there's feet that howls on like a cat on a roof, and there's feet that thumps like an elephant's hoof, and there's feet that goes trundling along like a Barra, and there's some that's crooky, and some as straight as an arrow. There's feet that's thick and feet that's thin, and some turning out and some turning in, and there's feet that can run and feet that can walk, aye, feet that can laugh and feet that can talk. But an innocent foot, it's got the spring that you feel when you tread on the mountain lane, and it's tied to the heart and not to the hip, and it moves with the eye and it moves with the lip. I suppose it's God that makes, when he wills, them beautiful things, with the lift of his hills, the waft of his winds, and his calms and his storms, and his work and his rest, and that's how he forms a simple wench to be true and free, and to move like a piece of poetry. Well, a lass is a lass, and a lad is a lad. But now for the luck old Anthony had. For one evening, as I was making the beach, I heard such a hullabaloo and a screech that I left the boat where she was, and I ran straight up to the houses, and I saw the whole clan of neighbours a-crowding at Anthony's door. for most of the boats was landed before, and some pressing in and some pressing out. So I asked the woman what it was all about, and "Didn't you hear the news?" says she. "It's a fortin that's come to old Anthony Lee." Then she told me about the lawyer chap that was in with them there, and his horse and his trap and his papers, with seals as big as a skate. Bless me, how them women loves to prate. "And good-looking man he was," said she, "as you might see, and a gentleman bred, and he's talking that nice and that kind and that free, and it's a fortin he's got for old Anthony Lee." So I said, all right, but I felt all wrong. And I turned away and I walked along to a part of the shore where the wreck of a mast stood, half of it out and half of it fast. And a knife inside me seemed to cut my heart from its moorings, and heaven shut and locked and barred like the door of a dungeon, and me in the trough of the sea a-plunging, with the only land that I knew behind me, and a-drifting where God himself couldn't find me. So I made for the mast, but before I got at it, I saw Betsy a-standing as straight as a statted, with her back to the mast and her face to the water, and the strain of her eyes getting tauter and tauter, as if with the strength of her look she tried to draw a soul from the dull dead sky. Then I went to her, but what could I say? For she never took her eyes away, only she put a hand on my cheek, and I tried hard enough to speak, but I couldn't. Then all of a sudden she turned, and the far-off look was gone, and she yearned to my heart, and she said, "You doubted me." And I said, "I didn't then, Betsy Lee." So her and me sat down on the mast, and we talked and talked, and the time went fast, when I heard a step close by, and behold ye, there was the lawyer chap I tell ye, he had come with the papers, confound the pup. And he says, "I'm sorry to interrupt," he says, "such a pleasant tete-a-tete, but you'll pardon me, it's getting late, and I couldn't think of returning to town without paying my respects, as I feel bound, to the lovely heiress, and offering her," and cetera and cetera. You know how they rattles on. So we rose, and all the three of us homeward goes. But blessed if he didn't buck up, and says he, with a smirk, "Will you take my arm, Miss Lee?" And Betsy didn't know what to do, so she catched a howl, and there them two goes linking along. I thought I'd split with laughing, and then I cussed a bit. And when we got up to the houses, the rushing there was to the doors, and Betsy blushing, and him looking grand and me looking queer, and the women saying, "What a beautiful pair." Now it mattered little to me that night what stuff they talked, for I knew I was right with Betsy. But still, you see of a rule, a fella doesn't like to look a fool. And the more I thought of the chap and his bowing, the madder I got. So when he was going, and I held the horse and gave him his reins, and "There's a sixpence," says he, "for your pains, a sixpence, my man," I couldn't howl then. And once again I began, and I did begin, and I let him have it hot, as they say, but he only laughed and drove away.